All right, welcome back, everybody. My name is Jason Renno, the host here of AI plus Data Mastery, and I am excited today. We have Allen Adamson as our guest here. Allen has decades of experience in both B2B and B2C marketing, business, corporate. I mean, the guy is just going to be a wealth of knowledge for us. Currently, he's the co-founder and managing partner at Metaforce, which we can jump into here in a second and talk about that. But Allen, welcome to the show, and really appreciate your time and you taking some time and jumping on here and talking to myself and our listeners.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to it. We can start wherever you want.
Yeah, so typically, like we were talking about kind of in the pre-show conversation, rather than just say, hey, tell me about Metaforce and kind of give an elevator pitch, is there, usually what I like to do is put a little bit of spin on it. Maybe you can talk about one or two clients, one of your two most kind of successful clients that you can kind of elaborate and go into a little bit more detail in terms of what Metaforce does and your kind of unique spin on things in terms of marketing and, the market itself right now.
Well, actually, the way you got into it is one of signs of a lot of the work we do, which is what's your elevator pitch? And many clients, because B2B business is a word of mouth business. People say, who do you use for this? Or rarely do people go through searching through the web and saying, let me try to, yes, maybe with AI now they can do better searches, but most businesses hire other businesses because someone recommended them. And the challenge when you're doing word of mouth is having an idea that can travel by word of mouth. And oftentimes when you meet business leaders in B2B, they start telling you what they do, how they do it, why they do it, why they're better, and they have trouble getting to simple. Because if somebody says, Jason, who do you recommend for this type of project? It's rare that you would be able to say, well, I recommend Allen because he's worked with these clients and he has this unique process. You would just say, look, Allen does, and if you don't have my elevator pitch ready to go and pass on to someone else, it's really hard. So what we do is help B2B companies get to a simple, clear, sticky elevator pitch. They can, of course, elaborate on it, but if they don't start with a clear point, and that point could be about what you do, it could be about how you do it, it could be about why you do it. But if you try to tell too big a story, it often fails to achieve liftoff velocity. And so when we meet with clients and you look at their websites, they can pour everything onto their websites you can think of, but very few people are going to read that. And so how do you get your idea to a crisp handle that at least gets people saying, tell me more, as opposed to, get it.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like, how do you grab their attention, pique their curiosity, but don't give them enough information to actually make that decision and for them to decide whether or not you're right for their
Or give them too much to remember, and they're not going to say,
too much to remember. There you go.
Does something in data technology, and you can look them up, but I'm not exactly sure. As opposed to Jason had a really simple, clear podcast, and he focuses on two topics, which I think will be interesting to you. So that is the basis of our business, and a challenge often for B2B companies is they are often very product centric. We've invented this great, pen, this great platform, this great solution. And while it may be unique, the only thing happening in business today is that if you have a better pen, solution, product, the only thing you can be sure of is there will be 4 or 5 others like it very soon. And your days of having something unique and different, whether we have the best people or the best team, or it's always easier to have a product. You can say, go try it and run it around the block and tell me if you like it. But lots of businesses are in selling services, and services are a function of people. And selling people services are really tough because it's tough to differentiate. You can look at our great team, and you look at their bios. They're all looking roughly nice. They went to nice schools. They worked in nice companies. They all look reasonably professional. But it's hard to separate one client, one company from another. So that's the core of what we do, and we do that for big companies or small. And part of it is if you're inside the forest, it's hard to see what you should focus on, which tree. But if you can look at it from the outside and help clients get to, who you are, what you do, and why I should call you really fast, that helps.
Yes, very good. And I honestly, even, being in the B2B space myself, I found that was one of our biggest hurdles for, even the first, 6 months or so in business is you want to just bombard them with all this cool stuff you can do. And it's just, I think, what did you say? Too much to remember, I think is a common flaw. And when you ask somebody what they do for a living, and it's just like, kind of goes over their head.
Right.
And you just
it's like two things. One, I wrote my first book was called Brand Simple, which was written 20 years ago, which is the best brands are based on simple ideas. And then you can do a good job telling that story. If you look at consumer advertising, and you want to buy car insurance, Geico could have told you 50 things about Geico. They could have showed you that they're owned by Warren Buffett. They do car and motorcycle and boat, but they chose, a simple story, save 15% in 15 minutes, get a quick answer. And because they told such a simple story, they were able to break through in the marketplace. So to execute today, whether it's online or social media or whatever, the simpler your idea, the better job you can get at executing it and breaking through the clutter.
Which is the better job you can do to like getting it to the masses and making it and giving yourself a scalable product or service.
Right. So if we can get to a simple idea and I can help a client, or we can help a client execute something brilliantly. That's the other thing the B2B businesses do. Well, we have a web page, we do social media, we have this presentation, we're going to this conference, we send people this email. If they're trying to do too many ways to tell their story, they generally are average at everything. But to break through today, you really need to, if you're going to break through, you have to be really good at a few things. And so focus is the hardest thing for a small business to do. They're running around spinning plates and trying to keep a lot of pots on the burner. And to break through in the marketplace today, you just need to do less and do it better and better. Lots of clients come and say, "Oh, we need to do more content marketing." And we've got lots of great, white papers and this, and they're all great, but there's so much content out there. Just saying you have an interesting point of view is no longer enough.
Yes, I like that. It's do less, but then just make sure you're doing it better than the next guy, right? So don't. And I think that's where a lot of businesses, they think by stacking, bullet points into their list of things that they could do or the list of their deliverables, they're going to attract more clients. And you might get that one-off client that wants that one specific deliverable, but at what sacrifice are you sacrificing the rest of your deliverables to try to get that one unique deliverable that one unique client might want? And just kind of, I guess it just throws the whole kind of fulfillment process off, right?
Yeah. And in social media today, lots of clients come to us and say, how do we break through on social media? And, the theory is really easy. People share on whether it's LinkedIn or any other social media. People don't share average. People don't share, I had an experience with Jason and it was pretty good and you should call him. You're either going to get, I had an experience with Jason and it was awful and never call him. Or Jason has to do something that's so, I did a project with Jason and he did something that was extraordinary. And let me tell you about it. So there's a New York Times columnist who does a talk, Tom Friedman, on average is over. And that applies to business. If you're doing things averagely in business, anyone can get average anywhere. You have to say, what do you do better than anyone else, and pick one or two things. And you're better off, starting there than trying to say, oh, and it's like a general contractor. I can do your plumbing and electric, and I can paint your house, and I can lay down the tile. And I'm sure they can do all that. But if you're building a really nice house, you want the best plumber, you want the best tile.
Yeah, you don't want the handyman that can figure it out.
You don't want the heavy tool belt. And lots of small businesses act that way. They act, look, we can do all these things for you, but they're better served by saying, pick one or two things that they are, extraordinary at or really good at, and focus on that. It's not a hard thing. It's a hard thing to do, but because you always want to tell people, oh, I can do all these things for you. What do you want?
Well, yeah, because it's hard as a business owner to turn down potential money. It's like, hey, so if somebody's telling you, hey, I want this, I'm willing to pay for this, and you're like, well, I could probably do that, and I could figure it out, and my business needs revenue right now. You're like, yeah, let's just do it. But then you don't realize that you're missing out on 3 or 4 of those other clients that you can get very specific and deliver extraordinary results for,
Right.
while you're wasting time kind of piecing shit together over here, for lack of a better term.
And most of my business comes from word of mouth recommendations, former clients that recommend me to their friends, so that when they're at a conference, they'll say, hey, yeah, we did a project with Metaphors, you should try them out. And they're not going to do that if you just did an okay job for them. So if you can do a great job for a few clients, because so much is word of mouth today.
And if it's not word of mouth, I think it comes back to what I tell people: it's trust and credibility.
Yep.
Like, especially on the B2B side, once they know about your business, how do you expedite that process to build trust and credibility? Assuming you don't have a direct referral, right? So from like digital marketing and AI and data tools, how can you expedite that process? And what I like to tell some of our clients is it's client testimonials. I mean, the sooner you can get those type of third party individuals, not yourself. You should think your business is the best. That's why you own the business and you're dedicating your life to it. But find those third party credentials, find some Google reviews, those type of trust building credibility or trust building assets. Let me ask you real quick.
Which means, going to your point, which is, if you're only doing an okay job, it's better to pass some of those things and do a few projects that you can wow your clients in, because although that will take longer and it's more painful on the revenue side, that will lead to a longer business success. Hard to do.
Yeah, exactly. Are you looking for quick wins or a business that's going to be around in 5 to 10 years from now? My question is do you have any, because even just thinking for myself and past experiences, to that business owner listening to this right now with that kind of complicated elevator pitch, without revealing any secrets, or obviously I know you're charging for this, but what are a few maybe tips or tricks that somebody could think about to help them simplify that elevator pitch?
Well, for most people, they get recommended and they have a chance to meet the client. Lots of our companies will use a PowerPoint presentation to say, let me introduce you to our company, and here's who we are, here's what we've done. And one of the things I often do is we start on, I ask the key leaders of the company to take me through their new business pitch. And it's incredible how often there's a gap between what they're saying and what they're showing. They're showing slides full of content, and they're because when you're in a certain business, it's hard to get an objective person saying, "Hey, here's a better way you can tell that story." And so, step one is to we often ask, videotape yourself or record yourself giving the pitch, and don't show it to your employees who are never going to say, Jason, you were pretty boring there.
Yeah, don't show it to a yes man or a yes person.
Try to show it to people that are in the marketplace not looking for your service. I want to show you my business pitch. When I was running my previous company, we had to compete for lots of business, and after we won a pitch or lost a pitch, we would have an independent person call up and say, tell me what Allen and his team did great, and tell me if we lost it, why they didn't lose. Because when I would call up and say, why didn't we get this assignment? They say, oh, Allen, you're a really good team, and you came close, but they won't share really what's going on. And it doesn't take a lot of money to find that. But if you have somebody who's, calls and look, we'd like to understand how, we understand you reviewed Allen's company for business, you didn't hire them, can you tell me more? Or even if you did hire them, why did you hire them? And you'll find out it was things you did that you didn't think were important. But really getting objectives, because you have one shot to make that first impression, because people judge you on snap things early on. They're not as analytical. They're not going to have a checklist and say, Jason does these 4 things and have a score sheet. And so the sooner you get really objective of how you're pitching your business, and the better you can be at it, be it through your website, through a PowerPoint, through in person, through email, just really sharpening that so that It's clear, it's compelling, and ultimately persuasive. Because most people just wing it. They just, and if you're not good at it, either get some coaching or find somebody in your firm who's really good at it, and let them do more of it. It depends on what business you're in.
Yeah, obviously every business is unique, for sure. But that's good advice. And then and it sounds like the underlying tone at the end of the day is keep it as like, what is the acronym KISS? Just like keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. Or I always refer back to you. Have you ever seen the movie Ocean's 11?
Yeah.
Where like Brad Pitt's telling Matt Damon like don't look up because you look like, don't look down, don't say 2 words when one will do, like that type of like, hey, like just be precise, just give them exactly what they want, and cut out all the rest of the BS around it, so to speak.
Yeah. And to try to, most people when they're pitching just tell you the ingredients. We do this and here, they just give you the reason why, but they don't even set it up in a story. And sometimes putting your business in a story. Well, we founded this business based on this. We learned this, and now we're doing this, and here's why it helps our clients. As opposed to saying, we do these 4 things, what do you want?
Yeah, we do these things and we do them better than everybody, give me your money, so to speak. I like that. So there's a story behind it. Why did you start the business?
Yeah.
What problems were you looking to solve? Why are you still in business? And, why do you love doing what you do?
We're most successful with these types of clients. Let me show you an example if you want to see it. And we do this less well, and so we don't do that much. So if you say yes to everything, you become less believable. Steve Jobs' famous quote was, the hardest decision in marketing is no. Because yes is easy to say, no is harder to say. But in fact, when we talk to clients, we want to say, how do you answer the yes question, and how do you answer the no question? And if everything is yes, we do that too. You think you're helping grow your business, but you're, as you said, you're really not, because the more things you say you do, the less of an expert in a few things that matter.
And do you think that's because of like just the current marketplace where people aren't looking for that type of like handyman, I can do a little bit of everything approach. They're like, hey, look, here's my problem. I want the best person to solve this problem. And I don't, I'm not looking for you to solve 5 other problems for me.
They're looking for an expert because if they're going to hire you for one thing, you've got to deliver on that, or actually over deliver on that. And the fact that you can also do this and this and this is nice. But you usually have to get in the door in one swim lane, and figuring out what that swim lane is to get you hired. And once you're in, then there is an opportunity to grow your business by saying, we did a great job here. We also can do that. But then you've already built credibility, and once you're in, is different than once you're trying to ring the doorbell. Really, 2 different things. And I think that what's made it hard is that online you can communicate. You can throw so much information at people. When I look at companies' websites, there is so much information, and the belief that people are just going to be scrolling through your website, reading everything, and reading your case history. Get back to the 8-second rule. The people are going to look at you for 8 to 10 seconds, and they're going to scroll through your website. And what you let them scroll for 8-10 seconds, and then you disconnect it. What do you remember about Jason's company? And if everything is crammed into content dense pages, whether it's on your PowerPoint or in your website.
Yeah, nobody's reading that. I'm sure you come across it where, company will be like, oh yeah, we just redid our website. We just paid somebody $25,000 and redid our website.
Yeah.
And there's, 45 different pages of products and services and this and that. But then the front page, their homepage. And then I go back and I start explaining, like, look, there's a reason why e-com brands don't send people to multiple page websites. They send them to a single purpose, single page landing page to get them to do one single thing. But on the B2B side, they still want to just, hey, send them to my website and let them search around. And, it's like nobody's going to your website and spending 30 minutes reading all these pages, right?
Over jargon, oftentimes we'll take a client's website and take 5 of their competitors and remove the brand name and, shuffle them and show them back. and say, here's how you talk about your solutions and using the same words. And here are 5 other companies. Maybe they'll not recognize the look of their key competitor, but they realize what a sea of similarity we live in. And the fewer buzzwords, the fewer cliches, the fewer stock images, the simpler your communication is, the better you can break through and tell one story and get hired, as opposed to
what did you just, the sea of simplicity, is that what you just referred to?
Similarity.
Oh, sea of similarity. Okay.
I try to help clients zoom out and say, all right, show me one of your proposals, find 5 of your competitors' proposals, and then I serve it up we serve it up in a now here they are all together. We've put a thumb over everyone's logo, so you don't know whose company is what. And can you find your company here? Can you find your difference here? And when you look at your business, whether it's your website or your pitches, through that lens of using the same words as everyone else, your people are roughly the same backgrounds. They all look like they came. Your visuals are cliches. Then there's an opportunity to say, look, how do we stand out here? And it gets back to less is more and picking one thing. And if it's about who you are, then really shine your people and talk about who they are and bring them to life more than name, rank, and serial number. If it's about you have a better product, then make that the hero, but show how it works. And
are you getting better results than your competitor? Then focus on be results driven. Exactly. I like that. I didn't even thought about something like that, where it's just take the logos and the company names off your website and
and look at your competition and say, are you standing out? It gets back to if you want to tell a simple story, you have to decide, am I going to make the story about what we do? Am I going to make it about how we do it? Am I going to make it about who we are as people and our culture and our team, or why we're in this business? Because we are designed to, we're motivated to make people the best they can be. And you might have good answers to all 4 of those, but you can't cram all 4 of those like a newspaper story into one small mouse hole. So you have to pick which way you're going to get into that story. Are you going to just start with a what story? We do this, and this is what we deliver. Or are you going to do a how story? We're FedEx, and we're going to be absolutely certain we deliver the next day. How we do it is fast, or why we do it. So try to break your story up and figure out what door do you want to go through. Because if you try to use all those doors and tell it, here's what we do, here's how we do it, here's who we are, and here's why we do it. Those are all relevant, but if you try to cram all those into someone's 8-second attention span,
then they're not going to know who, what, or why you are, because you told them everything at once, and they're like, I don't even know.
Start the most compelling one, and once you get them interested, and you look like they tell me more, and say, well, let me tell you how we, then you can expand out. But to break through on that elevator pitch, as you say, or to figure out what the right elevator pitch is something that's critical from consumer. Every brand now needs to do that. And you see that on all over marketing, that you figure out how do you grab somebody's attention and get them to remember something about you that is relevant and different. And then, now I want to learn more. Because if you don't get by that first hurdle, we're all learning how to ignore more and more stuff. As more and more people are screaming and say, hey, look at me, look at my business, whether it's social media clutter, you go to a conference today, there are 100 people screaming at you. Even if you have a little booth, or if you do email marketing, it's even worse. Every channel to get to your prospect is jammed. And so if you're not,
there's no channel that you're going to be the only one on.
Right. So figure out how you get your story as streamlined as possible to try to execute it great, to reach your target, if you can. I mean, the theory is easy. It's just really hard to do if you're a medium-sized business, any business.
Yeah, and especially as the owner or the developer, or the creator of that product or service, like it's so easy just to start talking about it and rambling on about it, and because it's your baby, it's what you built. You're so focused on it. That's been your life for the last 6 months to 6 years, however long it's been. So it's very tough not to talk about it. But I think to your attention, and I think where a lot of business owners forget that marketing, you're not trying to close that person. You're not trying to get them to say yes, especially on the B2B side. It's not a tube of toothpaste or a pair of shoes where somebody's going to click on Amazon and I need that tomorrow. You're talking about 5, 6, 7-figure contracts, yearly contracts that you need to start and build a relationship with. So it's how do I get their attention and how do I get them to want more? How do I get them to listen to my elevator pitch, see my ad, and raise their hand and say, hey,
and you can begin the process.
Yeah, I want more from Allen. Now you open up the conversation. Now you can go into now you can get excited and have that longer conversation with them because they want that information. You're not just trying to throw up and tell them something that they don't want to hear. And what I see is like so many business owners talk at people instead of having that conversation with them. And I think that's where, you kind of lose people or lose those potential clients just talking at them.
Yeah, because most, as you know, most corporate decision-making, B2B, is risk aversion. Who am I going to bring in that's not going to get me fired?
Exactly.
And how do I trust that person? And there's a belief that B2B decisions are very rational. People do an analysis and they have a spreadsheet. And yes, they are rational, but to even get the chance to win the rational argument, you've got to break through that elevator pitch and begin to get a relationship where you can tell your story and get into the why and the because if you don't get to that point and you try to ram all that stuff that you think is going to be the rational, here's the 15 reasons to hire us, people make decisions. There are too many choices. Like consumers, they're looking out in the second, hire 50 people to do this. Who do I hire to do this project? Or 20 people or 10 or even 5. And you've got to at least, let me learn more about Jason. They seem interesting. And then you can do. But if you can't get into their consideration set, which is harder and harder to do because everyone's tuned to screen out more and more noise and be more and more risk averse, which is why word of mouth is so critical today because it's so hard to tell the difference between one business and another. From their website, from their pitches, everyone says the same thing. They all look back to my sea of similarity. That if you can get a former client or two to give you a quote, to say something extraordinary, not like Jason was a nice company, they did a pretty good job. Most people, it's too confusing to buy B2B, and they prefer to go to a conference and say, who did you use when you did this? And if they have a couple of trusted friends at other companies, that will be critical. And the belief that it's going to be irrational, if you can just put out all your information, they'll make a rational checklist decision and hire you. That may be true, but you have to first get into their comfort zone and consideration set and tell me more zone.
Yeah, you have to at least have that because, you obviously haven't fully won that trust yet, but you have to put yourself in that position of, hey, this is a trustworthy individual and a trustworthy company. Now let's give them the opportunity to earn our trust in our business as well because others have trusted him. And I think that's where a big disconnect comes in.
Yeah. The challenge in B2B is it's not like you can, as you said, double click. Oftentimes you're spending a lot of money. You won't be able to see the result until they get working on it. And you're already in deep and all of a sudden it doesn't really work out. It's as a buyer, it's hard because you can't try two things and double click and look at customer reviews and shop like you shop in the consumer world. On Amazon, you got to make a call, and it's usually a big ticket just to get to turning the switch and seeing the light goes on.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's transition into a little bit. Where do you see, or what is your perspective on AI or just specifically AI, not even just data? Because I think data is data, obviously. We can talk about that separately, maybe down the road or later. But where do you see AI coming into all of this, into like the B2B marketing relationship building space?
I think it's not surprisingly, it's a huge enabler. Because before we do a business pitch now, it used to be we used to Google Jason and learn a little bit about him, maybe look at his website. Now with AI, I should know more about your business or as much about your business, who your competitors are, who's doing well. it's like having a bullpen of smart people prepare you for that first meeting. So you are, you just know your market much better. What's on Jason, AI can help you just understand what's going on in the category, who you're competing with, what are the challenges that company has.
You're saying like almost like it's like a full-time kind of research assistant, basically. It's like anything that you could possibly need to know.
Never talk to, before you give anyone your elevator pitch, you should use AI to find out more than just looking at their LinkedIn page. Find out, learn their business, and AI can do a phenomenal job telling you what's going on, what are the pressures.
I was going to say, you can even, once AI has the business, because I mean, you can literally put their website in there. Hey, tell me more about this business, analyze their website. What are, the 5 most common challenges they're seeing in today's marketplace? All of that type of stuff.
Who are other people that offer the same thing? What are the risks in hiring these firms?
What are their major competitors? Like AI can give you all of that information. And you're saying, like, so basically what you're saying is, don't be lazy, take the time, use AI, get all that information. So that way, when you're on the call, that first call or that discovery call, whatever you want to call it, that first relationship building call, you have all that information and basically you can be the most prepared on the call with AI.
Right. Homework matters and everything. It always matters how much homework you did. But now there's no excuse for not doing as much homework as a big company or more homework. And part of AI, as you know, is it's like hiring 3 people. The first couple of projects they work on, you didn't give them the right direction. You didn't tell them to double check here. You have a little bit of, well, they tried, but it doesn't. But the more you use AI, the more you learn how to, put in the right prompts to get better and better answers. So you don't realize that you are getting better at being a manager to the AI. Use a couple of platforms, because different platforms, I don't use just one. And and if it is B2B, it's the person who does the most homework and is most prepared usually wins. So if I know exactly what your business challenges are, I can craft a pitch to say, look, we focus on these 3 things for companies like you. And if I've done my homework, you'll say, oh my God, those are my 3 number 1 challenges. 3, 1, 2. And you're able to just talk to Jason as if you have been an employee of Jason's company or in the category.
An expert in that particular niche or space.
Trust, because you've done your homework. And people know when I go to a conference in different categories, you can pretty quickly find out who knows the category they're in and who's there just at 30,000 feet. Who's a well-prepared person. And so there's no more excuse for we didn't have time to, or even to edit your emails and to make sure your writing is, because people make decisions on how well you write your notes and how clear you are in your communications. And there's no more excuse between Grammarly and AI to help you say the right things, say it sharply, say it persuasively, and make sure that every point of contact you have is, wow, Jason is really buttoned up.
Yeah,
the risk thing is, does he really know what I do? And is he, but if wow, this guy really gets my category.
Am I just another number to this guy that he's trying to, just meet a quota with, or does this guy actually care about my business and, wants to help me out? I think that makes a huge difference, especially in the B2B space, going after these large contracts. And it's remarkable. I mean, I think even typing in the prompts is one thing, but now, being in the space, in the AI space, some of these new tools coming down the pipeline. I demoed one the other day where you type in all the client's information. They set up the framework of the sales call. So it sets up the framework, it does all the research for you, figures out what their wants and needs are, specific to the space, the business. Then the AI actually sits on the sales call with you. So while you're on the Zoom call and the sales call, you have a little AI coach in the corner, keeping you in line. And if the potential prospect says like red flag kind of statements that will tell you, hey, make sure to go dig a little bit deeper on that, ask these questions. It guides you through the entire sales call. Then once the sales call is over, it will analyze the transcript, and then it will tell you, here's the text message to send to them, here's the email to send to them to either book the next call or keep it. So it's like as a salesperson, all you really have to do is be personable and likable and follow instructions. You don't have to be the quote unquote silver tongue best salesperson.
I always like to ask AI, what could happen to their business? Who's disrupting it? What are the risks to their business? Because if you know what Jason is worried about, you don't have to say, are you worried about it? But part of it is asking the right questions. And asking a question, a lot of people pitch and never ask a question. But if you actually do your research with AI and say, what 3 or 4 questions should I ask Jason that are really going to, because you're better off asking Jason 3 smart questions than telling him 5 things about your company.
Correct. Or even what I found is like, rather than say, hey, Alan, what's keeping you up at night from, about your business? What's bugging you? It's, hey, Alan, from my research, it seems like these are the 3 biggest issues in your business right now.
Are they right?
Are these correct? Are these keeping you up at night, or did I miss something? Right. So rather than just say, hey, I'm lazy, I didn't want to do anything, tell me this information. It's like, hey, I did my homework. Can you just confirm that my information is correct here? Because I spent 15, 20 minutes or 30 seconds on AI researching your business, and here's what I came up with.
Yeah, and also double check, because AI can still hallucinate. So I always like to have my team
hallucinate.
Because you can also blow it yourself up. But it's so good right now that if you use 2 people in the bullpen, whether it's chat or different platform.
Yeah, you got Claude and all these other different options.
And have it be your coach. I mean, that Super Bowl ad, which Google ran, where we were talking about this earlier, where the father is interviewing for a job on using AI to practice. And the AI asks him, so tell me about a situation where you were challenged before, typical interview question. And then he starts trying to think of a business situation, but he instead talks about his family and, disciplining his kid and growing. Your viewers will find a spot. It was Google. It was a great spot during the Super Bowl. But, AI can help you do that. It should help you pitch and grow your business too, and say, look, I have a meeting coming up with Jason. He's in this company. What questions will be on his mind? Give me some of those questions. Let's practice the answer. And all of a sudden, you have somebody who's going to give you honest feedback. It may not be right, but you're practicing.
Give me the top 5 new. Like, let's just say you're talking to an aerospace manufacturer, right? Give me the top 5 news articles, within the aerospace industry.
And what are the implications for his company?
What's that?
And what are the implications for his company? Not just like this.
Yeah, and that's the thing is most. And so to that point is taking those questions and going deeper. And that's where a lot of, I find people that you talk to with AI, they'll ask one question and then they'll spit out the answer, but it's like, go a little bit deeper, ask one question and then ask 4 or 5 sub questions and dive a little deeper into it. So like you're saying, don't just ask for 5 articles in the aerospace industry, but what are the ramifications that these articles have towards my client? What are the implications? What should they be worried about? That type of stuff. So now it's,
and you can even go further and ask AI, given these challenges for this company, why don't you generate 3 alternative ideas that you think they should be considering? And those may not be good, but at least you'll have one in your pocket where you can then flip it into a question and say, have you thought about blank, blank, blank? And they'll say, yeah, we thought about it, but we decided not to do it. But at least you are giving something back as opposed to just rambling on about why you're the best solution that they could ever double click.
Yes, the key word is to avoid the rambling on. Be clear, be precise, and I think that's kind of the underlying tone of this this entire show here today, starting back in the beginning, where keep it simple, stupid, get your elevator pitch dialed in, don't make sure that you're not rambling on, and then from there use AI to continue that process. So right from the elevator pitch all the way to that initial call, all the way to the close, keep it as simple and precise as possible. And AI can help you do that entire process.
And what's often is working even better is you can assume your client may be doing that, or your prospect may be doing that to you. So you could, starting off the meeting with like, let me tell you about Jason's company, may not be the right way to go. Jason, I'm sure you've done some research on us. What would you like to accomplish? What questions do you have at the start? What do we need to talk about? Give up control, because I'm sure they've double clicked on you and done a little bit of homework on you now all of a sudden. And you going through that, you have 4 offices in 3 cities and 80 employees. Those might be nice, but that may not be, getting the client talking faster. Even if they know even if they turn it back and say, no, Jason, tell me about yourself. That's great. Tell me about your company. But giving them the chance to realize that they probably have done a little homework on you using AI. And so what you thought was, what you had to tell them in the first 5 minutes, they already know. Because everyone is going to be smarter, faster. And it's going to need to change how you go to market in the B2B world.
Yes, I agree 100%. So we had one individual on the show the other day, and she was more of like a holistic healer, and she comes into workplaces and deals with like workplace anxiety and stress and things like that. She was saying that a lot of her clients are just like scared of AI right now. They don't know what to do, in a sense of like embracing it. And what is the temperature that you're seeing amongst your clients in this space? Are most businesses like all in, I need AI, we need to be implementing it yesterday, or are they like, oh, we're just going to get by without it, or somewhere in between?
Yeah, I think it depends on the level you're talking. Younger people in the company are, leaning into it because they've grown up a little bit with it. Older people are still, it's, I think for medium-sized businesses, it's a leveling device. It allows you to compete at a higher level. So for a medium-sized, it's mission critical to get great at it. Just from you don't have, B2B is all about how many swings you get, and can you get your can you get your batting average up? Can you win 3 out of every 5 pitches, or 3 out of every 4 pitches, or 2 out of and to do that, the smarter you are, the better you are. So I think for smaller businesses, you can't do too much AI because it's just enhanced homework, which you never were able to do before, because it was time consuming and phenomenally expensive. And now it's there. So for companies, some of them are reluctant to do it, but I also recommend you experiment with AI for yourself, because the more you get comfortable with it, with home repairs, with making decisions on which car to buy, you get to realize the ability of it to not just throw back tons of content at you, but help you find the needle in the haystack. As long as you're doing it. So I'm surprised that it's tough if you were graduating school and looking for a job, because that's when I started out of school. That was my job, was to prepare our go-to-market team with the facts to arm them to go into battle. But now any business should be better equipped to compete in the marketplace if they can just.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's definitely leveling the playing field in a lot of ways. So this has been really, really good information. I think our audience here, I don't see how they wouldn't get a lot of value out of this episode. So we really appreciate your time. And then also, I know in the pre-show call you had mentioned, I always like to ask a favorite book, and you had mentioned and I wanted to recommend.
Tied to B2B, it's a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. It's about how B2B big companies make decisions, and the belief that they're very rational, and the consumers think fast, which is, I got to get somebody in here to solve this problem, and they quickly they make snap decisions, say who can solve this. And then once you're in there, you need to slow down and give them the rational reasons to buy you. But too many people are starting with a big, here are 10 things, as we said, here's a lot of rational reasons to hire me. And it could be that the simplest way in is an emotional way. We're trusted and we're great. Let us come talk to you, and we're great listeners. That could be the way in for fast thinkers. And then once you're in, you can, do the rational thing. It's been around for a while, Thinking Fast and Slow. Just a good way to put a lens on everything you do in the B2B world to make sure you don't get stuck in the mud.
Yeah, because everybody just assumes that buying cycle, the thinking, the rationale is they're like, oh, well, they're just going to buy something. So they're going to buy it the same way they buy something from Amazon or buy something else. And it's just
read
like,
the PDF, you read the RFP, and the RFP says, we'll look at these, and you we got to look at all the things they're looking for. But to get on that list, if you try to throw everything they're looking for in the RFP back at them, you're not going to win. You got to figure out, how do I get onto that short list?
That's so funny. I use that term from one of my businesses that we help with B2B companies with marketing. And it's like, my job as your marketing company is to get you on that short list.
Right.
If that company is ready to make a decision and you're one of the 2 to 3 companies that they're considering, then as far as I'm concerned, I've done my job. I can't close the deal for you. I can't control any of that. But if I've got you on the short list, then the programmatic ads, the email marketing, all this stuff that we've done to build trust and credibility to get you on that short list, then we've done our job correctly. Because nobody's going to buy sign a $100,000 contract over a website, filling out a form. You have to. I can get it to the red zone, so to speak. You got to get it into the end zones.
So figuring out how that client is making the think fast decisions. Who am I going to invite into the room? And getting in the room, and then you can really lean into AI and then build a compelling case when you're in the room to try to get your win ratio from 1 out of 3 to 2 out of 3 or whatever it is. But if you try to do it the other way around, if you try to bury the client and lots of reasons to hire you, you'll never get into that room.
Yeah, you got to play the long game. There's steps to it. You can't go straight for the close. You can't go, straight for the jugular, so to speak. You gotta work your way in, build trust and credibility. So,
what are you great at?
What was the name of the name of the book again?
Thinking Fast and Slow. It's been a business book. It's been around for 8-9 years, and lots of people talk about it because when you're doing B2B, whether you're selling Google something or Accenture something, or selling the dry cleaner around the block something, the same principles apply to B2B decisions, which is, how do you get in the room where it happens? And if you're not in the room where it happens, you get 15 reasons for the client to hire you. It's sort of academic.
Yeah, most people are so focused, they forget that they have to get in the room first. They're trying to close the deal before they actually get in the room.
The RFP sets it up that way. So here's the things we're looking for. And if you just, even in the RFP, if you just fill out each of the forms, you're not going to win on that. You got to say, all right, I've done all that. Now, what one thing from this RFP do I want to use as my tip of the spear?
Makes perfect sense.
So, easier said than done.
Yeah, no, easier said than done is right. Yes, that's for sure. That's the name of the game. But well, we really appreciate your time. I think we could, the two of us could probably sit here and ramble on about this for a while, or talking more about AI and data and all that fun stuff. But I think there was a ton of value. I know I learned something. Hell, just even me and my business partners going back and just simplifying everything, the elevator pitch, the ads. There's a lot of good advice over the last 48 minutes here. So we really appreciate your time, Allen. And anything that we forgot, or any last minute words of wisdom?
No, it was fun talking to you. And
this is great. If you want to learn, if you want to learn more or engage with Allen a little more, feel free to jump on his website, metaforce.com. I'll make sure it's in the show description and that type of stuff as well. But feel free to reach out to Allen. We really appreciate you listening to the episode here. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and all the other social media platforms. And Allen, thank you again. And to our audience, everybody have a wonderful day. Appreciate your time, and tune in for the next episode. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.